Hello everyone. Today Thomas-san is here, and today's our agenda is how to overcome cultural difference in Japan. Thomas-san, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
So please tell us your experience. What is cultural difference in Japan?
Okay, so I think maybe there are two types of cultural difference. Maybe the first one I was thinking about was like the business culture, and expectations can be different. And then the second one is just the sort of experience of living in a country that's not your mother country, and kind of being surrounded by people of a different race from you. So I'll start with the business culture part. I mean, I've heard that the difficulties of Japanese business culture can be you're expected to work late every day, or you're expected to go drinking with your bosses like a lot. But actually, those didn't happen in my experience. No, it didn't happen.
Okay.
So I can't give advice on them other than just generally say you should try not to do anything you're uncomfortable with. And that's the same in any kind of job, in any kind of culture. Try to negotiate so that you can be happy with your situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part about being a foreigner in Japan, there's different cultural expectations. There's a language barrier. You're surrounded by people who are a different race from you, and you'll always stand out and have a lot of kind of attention paid to you. But I try to remember that. I mean, those are kind of the difficult parts, but there's also many good parts to living in Japan. So I try to kind of keep both in perspective. And they have good and bad sides too. Like, yes, maybe you'll get a lot of attention and you'll be looked at a lot, but at the same time, maybe your managers in your company will they'll remember you more easily, and maybe they'll be interested in talking to you a bit more. And also just being a native English speaker is a valuable skill in Japan. But in UK, of course, it's not a skill. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I try to keep the kind of the good side and the bad side in mind. And also I should mention, living in Tokyo is really fantastic opportunity. Tokyo is an amazing city. The food's incredible. You can karaoke. You can go snowboarding. So really about just keeping things in perspective, I think.
Right. Thank you. So you said. Because you're a foreigner, many people are looking at you. If I were you, it might be a bit tired at the beginning. Did you go through that process, or you are okay from initially?
I mean, it's definitely the culture shock is stronger when you first arrive. But I don't know if you've ever been to a country where there are not many Asians or Japanese people. Maybe you've had a similar experience. It takes some getting used to, but I think after a while you just kind of get used to it. And then even if I go back to UK, I'm like, there's so many foreigners here. It feels strange not to be surrounded by Japanese people. Yeah, so it's just a kind of bit of strangeness that you get used to.
Okay.
And probably the kind of attention you're paid is different. Like being in Tokyo, or if you go out into the countryside, maybe it'll be more intense. That kind of attention.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think some audience, they are Japanese, willing to work with foreigners or multinational work environment. So in that kind of situation, what kind of Japanese people's support is going to be helpful? Do you have any experience?
Yeah, I think there have been many people that supported me, but I'm not sure if a foreigner needs special support. I mean, the most helpful people to me are Japanese people who can speak English. Because then they can kind of act as a bridge between me and the client. So if there isn't someone like that, my life gets much harder for my job. So I really appreciate the help from people who can speak both. And actually, I had a recent project where there was a Japanese member who no one knew that he could speak English. Or if you asked him, he would say, "Yeah, I can't speak English." But actually, we worked together for about 4 months, and we were having, meetings internally, just ourselves. And he would speak English to me during those meetings. And so I think because it's like a safe space. I mean, maybe you don't want to speak English to a client, but if it's just a colleague, it's much easier. And, you can make mistakes, and it doesn't really matter. like even if you think your English is not so great, maybe it can make a really big difference for the foreigner. And we developed a very good relationship, and actually our managers were really impressed with this person, and he actually can speak English. This is great. So yeah, and Tokyo can be a kind of lonely place, even though there's so many people. So I think maybe foreigners would be really happy if you could become friends or suggest to go out drinking or for coffee or something.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas-san. Is there any cultural difference maybe in work environment or business?
Yeah, so just thinking about that, and Japan has its kind of rituals around like business cards and seating arrangements and who should be talking to who. And I mean, the West does have a certain kind of like formality and rituals, but my feeling is it's a little bit more relaxed. And in Japan seems everybody is so careful to do things the right way and to not make a mistake. Whereas I don't know, I think if there's any Japanese people like watching this and they're thinking about going overseas, I think maybe you'll enjoy that part. You can not worry so much about making mistakes and about other people's expectations, and maybe you can just express yourself a little more kind of carelessly, I guess. Maybe it's a little easier that way. Although on the other side, Japan is very organized, and it's very clear what should be happening, and there's a process and you know where you are. So the West can be a little bit more chaotic in that sense too.
Yeah, thank you very much. So is that your experience in UK or Japan?
Well, it's kind of strange. So at Fujitsu, of course, it's a Japanese company, but the culture was very English. And actually, I never saw a Japanese person when I was working there, even though it's quite a big office. And also now my current company, we are a global firm, but it's almost like 95% Japanese people. So the culture is very Japanese. So yeah, it's kind of opposite. But yeah, in terms of differences between them, it's hard to say. I mean, culture is kind of created in such a local way. Like the particular manager you're with will have his own style, or the client will have their culture, and they can all be kind of different. But to be honest, the way I behave and try to interact with people, it's more based on my own values and my own idea of what good behavior is. So I don't really worry about the culture too much. I just try to interact with people in a positive way and try to meet their expectations. Yeah, I don't know, culture, how it expresses itself, maybe in terms of how much like the client like to go out like drinking and that kind of thing might be different. Yeah, so sorry, that's kind of only a half answer, but hopefully it was helpful.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much, Thomas-san.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
It's really helpful. It's really interesting story you have shared. Thank you very much.